American Gods was a show that should have done super well. However, it began to flop after its first season. After the first season aired, fans were in for the long run, but sadly, behind-the-scenes issues caused the show to head downhill after that. The showrunners changed in the series, and it really hurt the direction and especially the cast. But why was this frustrating for the cast? Stay tuned to find out. First up, why American Gods changing showrunners was frustrating for its cast. Season 1, 2, and 3.
Mr. Wednesday, an old god from Norse mythology.
No?
American Gods was set to be one of the best television shows of early 2017, but sadly fell off after its first season due to some behind-the-scenes squabbles. Recently, we got to see Crispin Glover come out and talk about why American Gods was very frustrating for the cast as showrunners changed every season. This series was based on Neil Gaiman's 2001 book of the same name, and it's a 3-season-long fantasy drama series that ran from 2017 to 2021. The first season was praised for its visual effects, acting, and writing, but the second and third season began to receive much more mixed to average reviews from fans and critics alike. Back in March of 2021, American Gods was finally canceled after its third season due to lower ratings on Starz. The first season had showrunners Brian Fuller and Michael Green stepping in to helm the show for its first run. Fuller said that the aim of the show was not to follow the book completely, as they wanted to expand upon the source material to make it better, with the help of Neil Gaiman by their side. However, despite both Green and Fuller being heavily dedicated to the project back in November of 2017, it was announced online that both of the showrunners would be leaving American Gods after having written half of the second season. Little was said about their departure at the time, but it has recently come to light that both Green and Fuller left for a multitude of different reasons. This included disagreements between both of them and the creator Neil Gaiman, as well as budgeting constraints, and finally, an uncompromising cast. For the second season, we got to see Jesse Alexander take over as the showrunner alongside Neil Gaiman himself. However, in September 2018, Jesse Alexander was then removed from the project halfway through the second season, with sources saying that he was fired but not fired. This was all again due to disagreements between him, producers, and Neil Gaiman. With Jesse Alexander gone from the project, the showrunner role was taken over by producing director Chris Bryan, as well as line producer Lisa Kostner, as they stepped over into the role of the showrunner temporarily. Then when season 3 came around, we got to see Charles Egley become the showrunner before the season was therefore canceled in 2021. Crispin Glover's quote. An exclusive interview was recently released with Crispin Glover, who played Mr. World in the series. He came out and recalled just how frustrating the series was to have a new showrunner every season on the project. He said that each showrunner had always brought their unique approach to the ongoing series, and that having to change the style and tone of the show every season was inconsistent and jarring to say the least. He also said that the series showrunners were good, and he would have loved to continue with the series with Green and Fuller's version of American Gods. Here are just some of what he said during the interview. There were 3 different seasons of it, and each season had a different showrunner, which of course, that is a bit confusing, because the showrunner is going to have a very individualized approach to how they write or are in charge of the writing team. So they're going to have a very individualized take, and that's going to affect very greatly what the character is going to be like. Every American Gods showrunner change explained. Back in 2019 of the series, both Egley and Gaiman had begun to plan the 4th season. This was in April of that year, and it indicated that Egley would have stayed on as the longest-running showrunner for the series, as he would helm a total of 2 seasons. However, as we now all know, the cancellation of the series nipped that idea in the bud. Changing showrunners over the course of a series isn't unheard of, especially with those that are long-running. However, 3 different showrunners over 3 consecutive seasons are very unique and a completely challenging situation for the actors and writers involved. Fuller, Green, and Alexander all departed the series due to creative differences with the producers, the network, and Neil Gaiman himself. This means that having a cohesive and consistent tone throughout the series was going to be very difficult to achieve, as each showrunner had their interpretation of the characters and the show with every new season. As Glover laments in the previous interview we spoke about, it was also very difficult for all of the actors to settle into their versions of their characters, as each season had them evolving into different versions of them that needed to fit the style of this new showrunner. It seemed to be awful for the cast, and it's honestly a great thing that the show has been canceled now. There has currently been no word on whether American Gods Gods will see a revival in the coming years, as the success of other Neil Gaiman shows, such as Netflix's The Sandman, could have led to renewed interest in the series. It's clear that Neil Gaiman can produce a good show, but that American Gods just didn't work with television. Back in March of 2021, Neil Gaiman did state that American Gods weren't dead, and that there was hope with him and those he works with that the series could continue as a TV movie, or even with a fourth season. With all of the complications behind the series, it doesn't seem like the creative mind behind the series is going to come back to it anytime soon. The only way American Gods could and should continue is with one sole showrunner that partners up with Neil Gaiman perfectly. What do you think about American Gods and their terrible history with showrunners? Please let us know in the comments section below. And now, on to some other American Gods news and information to wrap up today's video. Next up, why American Gods creators Bryan Fuller and Michael Green left after season 1. Though we have already covered a small part of it, it's not really clear why Bryan Fuller and Michael Green left American Gods in the first place. Their departure at the time was not clear, but all we know was that they had a bad time with Neil Gaiman as well as other producers. More information has come to light recently, as in a now-deleted tweet, Bryan Fuller said this: "We were dedicated to casting, crafted the season, wrote 5 episodes, and even had media as Mr. Rogers and Princess Leia. We were in the process of reducing scope due to a dramatic budget reduction when we were fired." The series was renewed for a second season on May 10, 2017, and on November 29, 2017, an announcement was made that Fuller and Green were leaving after having written half of the episodes for season 2. Source material. One of the biggest reasons that came out was disagreements over the source material. When Green and Fuller finally left the show, word came out that the decision was amicable and that they would stay involved to a certain level with the series. However, a piece released by The Hollywood Reporter in 2017 showed off the tension behind the scenes. This was the main reason for the departure, as well as that they had a disagreement with Neil Gaiman themselves. When the series was originally picked up, Neil Gaiman had pushed for a direct and specific adaptation of the novel, whilst Bryan Fuller and Michael Green were leaning towards the idea of adapting the novel and adding new things. From what we can tell, both Fuller and Green were not
in each case was, you don't whitewash, you don't change the racial makeup,
aiming to respect his wishes, as they wanted to add things to the series from their own original ideas. These were moves that would have definitely taken the series further away from its 2001 novel American Gods. Neil Gaiman was heavily involved with the direction of the series and was therefore dissatisfied with the plans of Fuller and Green, especially for what they had planned for the second season. Uncompromising cast. Finally, there was also some other solidarity with Fuller and Green as further people on the show left the series. This was due to reports of alleged scheduling conflicts within the cast. The showrunners allowed many of the actors to shuffle around between other works, but a lot of them were uncompromising for their time on American Gods. The cast was allowed by Neil Gaiman to go off to Comic-Con in 2018 to promote his return for 2019, but this interfered with the filming of the series and ended up with a few of them leaving in the end. The series just couldn't catch a break, and this was another reason why it ultimately failed and was canceled after 3 seasons. And that's the end of today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this latest video. If you did, would you please let us know in the comment section below? It would be very helpful. Make sure to like the video, comment down below, and of course, subscribe to the channel with the notification bell rung. Thanks for watching today's video. Bye.